Well, you're listening to the Vitalmoments podcast. My name is David. I'm joined by my dad, who's the lead pastor of Vitalpoint Church. It's Monday morning. The heat in southwestern Ontario is hot, and you
It's
have
arrived,
it has arrived. And your shirt says hashtag reps for Jesus.
dude.
This whole CrossFit thing, we've got to be honest. It's getting a little ridiculous. Okay.
Well, the gym, a few of the people at the gym, Luke and Corey and Kate and Mick and a few others have been razzing me about this hashtag, reps for Jesus. And today, as we're wrapping up, getting ready to leave, Mick throws this t-shirt down, says, "Here on, this is for you."
I
And I'm
love
like,
it.
no way. And on the back it says Poplar Hill's fittest pastor. So
There's only two churches. So do we know the other pastor?
yeah.
What if they are just absolutely shredded?
Yeah, then I'm not the fittest pastor.
You have to give that shirt up. But no, it is good. It's a good Monday morning. We're gonna
Yeah.
spend some time chatting about the wrap up of a big long series, intentional,
Oh
good
man.
series called Jesus Said What? It's 10 weeks, man. It's crazy to think we planned this thing out 10 weeks ago or longer, actually. And
Oh man, it's been planned for months.
here we are at the end of it, where
Yep.
we really saw people lean in. You said that in the beginning of your message, like you, as you've been preparing for Sundays and getting ready, you could sense and feel people in connect groups, Sundays, other sites leaning into almost every conversation.
Yeah.
And we saw God do some crazy stuff. I shouldn't say crazy stuff, beautiful things in people's lives.
Kingdom normal stuff.
Ooh, Kingdom Normal.
Yeah. I've
You
been
should write a
reading.
book called Kingdom Normal.
Yeah, it's already been written. It's called the Bible.
The Bible,
The Bible.
the Holy
Yeah,
Bible.
no, David, I think what we're experiencing right now, and I have a deep sense and conviction that that's exactly what's happening, is kingdom normal.
Hmm.
People are being obedient. People are reconciling. People are making changes in their lives to align with the teachings of the last 10 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that the Christian faith is much deeper than the surface level activity of religion,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding the heart transformation that takes
Mm-hmm.
place as we walk according to the teachings of Jesus. And kingdom normal
Yeah.
within his realm and reign is just
Mm-hmm.
living in that courageous space of faithful obedience. So
Mm-hmm.
I think
Let
it's
me say
kingdom
this.
normal.
Let me say this. Um, we wrapped up this weekend with Matthew chapter 7, where Jesus talks, you're either building your house on solid rock or you're building your house on sand. And a
Yeah.
wise person hears my words and puts them into practice, obeys, like you talked about.
Yeah.
Winds come, things of life happen. It stands strong because it's built on the foundation of who Jesus is and his words and his teachings and his way of life. The other side is that person who is like a fool, right? That's the
Yeah.
correct language, like a fool,
Yeah.
who hears my words and doesn't put them into practice, is like, yeah, I hear you, but I'm going to push it to the side. I'm not going to really allow it to be part of my life.
Yeah.
Three words that rose up from this conversation for me, and I
Okay.
believe you said them, and that's why they came to my mind, was it is hear, obey, now walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really like those three words for me as an individual that's a follower of Jesus, being like, okay, what now from this series? Lots of Jesus' teachings. Hear, obey, now walk. What's your thoughts when I think of that?
Well, I think, I mean, I can't remember the online and for Exeter and Clinton video, but in Poplar Hill in particular,
Mm-hmm.
I've started realizing it's in the ear, sticks in the heart,
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
impacts the feet, right? So, and I think that the critical piece of right now in the season in which we find ourselves in, there's a shift happening where people are far more uh, desiring to be in tune with the
Mm.
voice of Jesus and to be exposed to his teachings and to be challenged, not in a heavy-handed, hellfire and brimstone like back in the day, but more of a gentle prodding towards grace and truth that compels people into obedience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we try to do around Vitalpoint is paint that picture of what does it mean to live as kingdom normal people and paint that picture and move towards it. And so
Mm-hmm.
we, one of the things that we talked about yesterday was the importance of the hearing, not in one ear and at the other, but hearing in a way like Jesus says in other settings. He says, those who have ears to hear, let them hear.
Mm-hmm.
And there is this posture of intent. I want to learn this. So I think that's a bit of what I
Mm-hmm.
sensed in this one.
Yeah. One question we had sent in to us is just like, when it comes to that idea of like obedience, um, is it like is it like we're allowing God to turn us into puppets? Um, and I thought that was an interesting thought because
Yeah,
it's just like,
yeah.
yeah, when you hear that, it's just like, it's an interesting thing to think, like obedience within the Christian faith. Like I've heard people actually say, yeah, you just turn into a puppet for God, but that's not true at all.
No, it's a willful obedience of surrendering
Hmm.
my ways to his ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
The and recognizing that the creator knows what is best for us, knows what true freedom looks like in Christ. And so for me, the love expressed through his design of creating
Mm-hmm.
us to willfully obey
Mm-hmm.
and intentionality of our obedience brings about the freedom that he offers to us in
Mm-hmm.
relationship to Jesus. So um yeah, I'm not sure if I totally get how that relates to God just doing the puppet thing, because I don't I don't know. I don't make that leap in my mind. I see it more as a parent allowing their child to,
Oh
willfully be
yeah.
obedient to, say, the rules or values of the home, which brings about certain freedom,
Mm-hmm.
right? And knowing what is best for them,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that development of trust grows our faith and obedience. So,
Let's talk about where Jesus talks about the winds, the floods, the waters, they rise. Because
yeah.
you spent some good time of what does it actually mean to activate your faith in obedience.
Yeah, I think the deeper part of understanding, there's a lot of misunderstanding around what does mature, resilient faith look
Hmm.
like, and it's not the absence of knowledge. I mean, part of our vision statement is growing in our knowledge of Jesus and commitment to His church. So it's not, and Scripture talks about growing in our knowledge, but what I was trying to do with us yesterday in the wise person that hears and does. Um, is really in that space of the deep end of faith is actually obedience. And so obedience
Hmm.
takes us to the deeper part of faith. Like when Jesus talks about, for example, praying for your enemies, right?
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, we can walk away and kind of be inspired by that, but it's not going to change us unless we walk in obedience to actually praying for those who are your enemies, actually praying that God would bless them. And in that, we find freedom from anger, bitterness, revenge.
Hmm.
And so for me, it's that activated, like hearing. Evidence of our hearing is our obedience,
Hmm.
right? Evidence that I'm actually hearing the Jesus is my willingness to follow. It's like faith without works. James talks about faith without works is dead. It's lifeless, right?
Hmm.
And so for me, it was trying to get us to that place of recognizing that, yeah, it is in our willful obedience
Hmm.
that we strengthen our faith.
Do you think Christians or people that are exploring faith have, in the last, I don't know, like 10, 15 years, lost the resiliency of their faith? Like to me is like I watch our world right now and just like, man, like where is that resilient faith of people's lives that is like really on display to show what God's done in their life? Like,
Yeah. So the reason why I believe that, and I believe that we're actually seeing more of a resilient faith
mhm,
emerge over the past few years. Um, I think David John Eldridge talks about this in his book Resilience, Resilient or Resilience, can't remember. He talks about the shallow lands, the middle lands, and the deep
mm,
part of our lives, and so we spend a lot of times in the shallow of our lives where we're just doing things, we're going places, doing things, taking
yeah,
care of groceries, putting gas in the car. The middle ground is where maybe some things happen where we, reflect on something or go a little bit deeper than just the surface, or maybe some journaling or praying. But we don't often get to the deeper part of the inner work of Christ in us. And
mm,
so when the rain comes, the flood comes, and the wind comes into our lives, the storms show up. That's the one consistent thing in the story that Jesus says in Matthew 7 is both the foolish and the wise experience rain, flood, and wind.
mhm,
It's the great revealer. It's the revealer of whether or not the resilience in our faith. And if we take a posture of this, why God, you shake your fist, and not that we can't do that at times, but we have to look at seasons where things God is going to use possibly to round off. Does he cause them all? No, but he will use them to make us more resilient. It's like if you take a tree and you plant a tree in the ground and it grows inside of a bubble, and you remove that bubble, as soon as the wind comes, it'll knock
mhm,
the tree down because the root system isn't deep enough.
yeah,
The tree that grows strong and resilient needs a consistency of the battering of the wind in order
mm,
for the root system to get stronger and stronger and stronger,
mhm,
so that when the winds come, it doesn't blow over. And if you look at trees that get blown over, oftentimes there's faulty root system, or it's rotted or whatever. But you grow something inside the bubble, it's not going to
yeah,
be strong and resilient.
mm.
We need the wind, we need the rain, the flood, and the wind in order to be more resilient.
And I think that's what's really becoming so evident within the life of Vital Point churches. We're seeing people who are, whether they're back to church in the first time in a really long time, and they would probably describe it like, I'm not a church person.
Yeah,
And you were even seeing people that are people that have been pretty resilient. Like that's we're seeing, like you just said, we're seeing people's lives continue to grow in their root system of
yeah,
who Christ is in their life.
yeah,
And I think that's what's so encouraging for me as a young man, as a husband, as a father, as a friend of people that are walking and doing the hard work of wrestling through life and faith, of like, what does it
yeah,
mean to
yeah,
truly submit? The Baker Encyclopedia talks about a true disciple is someone that fully submits
yeah,
everything to a way of life, where you say your ways are not as good, like my ways are not as good as that way, so I'm going to fully submit and see that transformation happen in my life. And that's what's really been evident within Vital Point Church these last few years, coming out of a time where it was so tough for people, and we're seeing people's faith
oh
become
yeah,
really resilient.
yeah.
um
It was tough for all of us, right?
yeah.
And we had to do the hard work of deconstructing parts of our faith that weren't helpful for the resiliency.
Hmm.
And now we're seeing a real readiness and a hunger
Mm.
across Vital Point Church, which has been great. And we're hearing it in other settings as well, which is just incredible. Like
Yeah.
David, I'm every once in a while, I believe that God kind of gives me a prophetic word for things, but I've been hearing more and more that people have a real sense that there's a shift coming,
Mm.
that there's going to be a more significant supernatural move of God,
Hmm.
that and that's going to just draw
Hmm.
so many people to himself. And I think it's happening. We're hearing
Yeah.
stories of it. And within our context, we
Hmm.
got baptisms coming up soon, and after after Sunday's talk, I think we're up to, I don't know, 21, 22 now,
Wow.
right? So it's
Yeah.
the recognition of obedience is
Mhm.
happening. And I just think it's incredible.
It
I
really
just
is.
yeah.
It's fantastic. It truly is. Okay, man, what a series. Jesus said what? We're gonna go into a new series after VBC Family Day, all in the I am
Yeah.
statements of Jesus.
Yeah.
So we've looked at the words of Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Like the
His teachings. Yeah.
foundation of life and how to
Yeah.
seek righteousness in the kingdom of heaven. And now we're gonna look at Jesus's bold claims of I am that. There's
Yeah.
so many good ones, and I can't
Yeah.
wait to see what that happens throughout the summer months. Um, yeah, I just sense like if you're listening to this and you got a friend that really needs community,
Yeah.
invite them to join you one Sunday through the summer, and let's see what God does in that moment for those people.
Just real quick, someone said to me yesterday in passing, they said, "You know what? I never really got this church thing until I came here." And I said, "What do you think it is?" He said, "It's the community. It's the
Mm,
people."
yeah,
Yeah. And
so cool.
I believe that that's a critical piece to what we see God doing here as well. So
Mhm.
it's great.
Okay, amazing, Ron.
All
Thanks
right.
so much, Dad.
Thanks,
Thank you to you for
David.
listening, whoever is out there in the world of the internet. We love it that you can connect this way and just enjoy this conversation and hashtag reps for Jesus.
For Jesus.
Oh, man. I love it. Okay, everyone. Peace out. Have a good one.